Warning, warning. The National Football League returns this month. That's right, folks. The NFL season is right around the corner, and that means it's fantasy football time. And you got to know what guys to target and who you want to avoid. Stay tuned for our top 25 fantasy football targets. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of IDP Plus. What is up, folks? I'm one of your hosts here, the DGen Doc, and I am joined, more importantly, by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, aka Professor Locks. How we doing?
Not too bad. What's up, Doc? How was your 4th of July? We're
4th of July,
recording this a couple days after the 4th, and I know you like to hit Independence Day hard. You know, celebrate the U.S.'s birthday accordingly.
It's good, man. I mean, look, so 4th of July, love it. I like it's funny. It's like, oh, happy 4th of July weekend, happy 5th of July, happy 6th of July. Should we just see how long you can just, hey,
how many days in a row can we set off fireworks?
Yeah. Well, I mean, around here, it seems like what you can get away with, but I'm sure depending on the state, you might be able to get away with some things.
Yeah, I think I've gone to bed the last 3 nights hearing bangs. Yeah,
it's a good lullaby, man. Especially when you sleep out on the field or something, you hear it's better. It's better than the artillery I was listening to about a month ago.
That's
so
fair.
I will take the fireworks. But yeah, man, happy 4th. And talking about 4th of July, there's a guy that, when you speak 4th of July, there's no way he can't come to mind.
Yeah.
And that is the Mr. Joey Chestnuts, who returned to his hot dog eating ways. And did you see the line that I know like Circa and some other books had on him? I don't know if you caught what the line was.
I think it was 71, right? 71 or 72.
70 and a half.
Yeah.
I know Circa at least. And that's exactly what he finished on.
He's 71
and a half, which I can't lie. I don't watch too many hot dog eating contests because we all know he's going to win. I didn't know you could score half.
I didn't
even know that was possible.
I didn't either. I don't know what constitutes a half a dog if they took
Is that like the bun?
Or maybe it's just the dog. Maybe left the bun there. Maybe it's just the bun.
Half? How do we? Yeah, I don't know. That maybe
after time is up. Do they come and measure how many dogs?
Yeah, like is it over or under? They're rounding up.
Yeah.
So I would say, how un-American is it that you're throwing? I mean, first of all, I guess it's over under, so you're hopefully getting -110. And you go through all that and you fucking push. Yeah. That is very un-American to have it go 70 and a half. At that point, I'd almost rather lose. But yeah. No, so that is very funny. But look, man, I would say Joey Chestnut, it's got to be pretty high up there as far as all-time athletes. Where are you putting him?
Yeah, I was something popped up on social media yesterday. It was like rankings of GOATs, kind of a thing. And I think Wayne Gretzky was at the top of this list. But, where's the love for Joey Chestnut? Because, nobody comes close to this dude.
Yes, and I will say, not only is he, great athletic eating, he doesn't let
anything. Just dogs. That's the thing. He's got chicken wing records, and I don't know what else, but the dude's absolutely insane.
He is, and I will say he's dedicated, and there's nothing more that proves his dedication than this picture here. I think this was 2023, where despite a protester trying to disrupt his flow, he still won, took down over 65 or 60 something dogs, and he put a protester in a choke slam. Now that is American.
No doubt. No doubt.
The 70 and a half push, maybe not so much, but that is American. So shout out to you, Joey Chestnut.
Take out Darth Vader there.
And shout out to next year. We're going to have to do it big because it's America's 250th birthday.
That's right.
It was the Army's 250th this year. 1 year later, obviously, would be America. So hopefully you can start preparing and setting yourself up for that tailgate because that's going to be a good time.
Yeah, we might have to give ourselves a good month and a half to prepare for the beers that are going to be demolished next.
Well, we always talk about this time of year. Be a responsible drinker, as we always encourage, which means you got to start upping your tolerance. We're going to talk about guys coming back from injury.
Talk about preparation and dedication.
You got to ramp up your protocol.
Perfect preparation, is key.
Yeah.
Prevents poor planning.
For tailgates that are going to be hopefully coming in your future, you got college football and you got NFL. So definitely start thinking about your preparations, folks. But all right, enough messing around. Let's get into it. We are talking about our 2025 fantasy football rankings. This is the redraft edition. So we are doing redraft today. Obviously, redraft means, hey, we are just focusing on this season, 2025. If you are a dynasty bro or a dynasty gal, we have a whole dynasty series that Derek and I did. Did quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. Then we did a cumulative show. Now we're on redraft. Derek knocked out quarterback and wide receivers. I took tight ends, running backs. And now we come back together to say, hey, what are the top 25 players in football, fantasy football wise?
Yeah, and I think it's probably a good thing to say, hey, we are assuming this is a PPR league, just normal scoring settings. I know, leagues that were started 15, 20 years ago, you may have been using different scoring systems or whatnot. PPR wasn't as big of a thing back then. We're under the assumption it's a PPR league, normal scoring. That's how we rank our
So don't be a boomer. Get in the 21st century here. PPR, normal scoring. All right. We're gonna do top 25, so 25 to 1. We as always are gonna start with our honorable mentions. These are guys who look, they're studs in their own right, but they just outside of our top 25. We're gonna talk about one guy from each position that just missed for us. Before we do that, though, I got to tell you guys about some of our awesome sponsors. And today we're talking about Fast Draft Fantasy. That's right, it is fantasy football season, and there's no place better to do it than Fast Draft. It is a best ball setup, and the best thing about this is in its name. It's a fast draft. Nobody likes these long clocks, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 8 hours. You know the guys you want to target. You don't want to sit there and have to wait and dedicate all this time. You want to be able to boom, 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 knock out your draft. And the nice thing about Fast Draft is they have boosters that allow for some flexibility. So let's say you're high on a guy and, something happens at training camp or for some reason you're higher on somebody else. You can add boosters to kind of affect the scoring. So a nice little, cool little twist. And the best twist possible, we're going to get you some free money. Use promo code +DGenDoc and get up to a $50 deposit match. It's very simple, folks. Download Fast Draft Fantasy. Use promo code +DGenDoc, deposit $50, and get $50. All right, let's start with those honorable mentions here. And Derek is going to kick us off for the first of these honorable mentions. Who do we got?
Let's talk about Jaden Daniels. We'll start with a guy that absolutely crushed it in his rookie season, and the Commanders have done nothing but try to help him out going into his sophomore year this offseason. They brought in Deebo Samuel. They brought in some offensive line help. Jaden Daniels, obviously, dual threat quarterback, picks it up on his legs just as well as he does through the air. But when it comes to fantasy, some people are a little bit higher than we are at taking quarterbacks earlier on in the draft. We have a couple guys in our top 25, but Jaden Daniels just missed out on that. I would say he's probably in that 25 to 30, 35 range for me. But, it's just one of those things that there are other position groups that we are probably trying to hit a little bit quicker out of the gate in those first couple rounds.
Yeah, I know. Similar to Jaden Daniels, the guy I'm going to talk about here is TJ Hawkinson. And again, it's more, quarterbacks and wide receivers.
Yeah.
They produce, running backs and wide receivers. They produce more points. So we're going to kind of focus on them first. But yeah, TJ Hawkinson comes in at, tight end number 3, like Daniels came in at QB3 there. I love TJ Hawkinson this year, man. I really am high on him.
Mm-hmm.
I know last season coming off the ACL, MCL, I think he was even kind of came back sooner than expected.
Agreed.
I think it's important he was able to get some games under his belt. You got a guy in JJ McCarthy who, Vikings fans can say what they want, but he's essentially a rookie quarterback. I mean, He took 0 preseason snaps. This is really going to be like his rookie year. He's a guy that you and I felt coming out of the draft that he probably should have done another year in college anyway.
Correct.
So, what does that mean? There's going to need to be a safety valve. And I think TJ Hawkinson is absolutely they're going to be that guy. Look, Justin Jefferson is definitely going to get his. but
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of right under Justin Jefferson, as explosive as Jordan Addison can be. I think just given the nature of what this offense is going to look like under JJ McCarthy, I think TJ Hawkinson is going to have a massive target share, and he's going to get back in the end zone like he was a couple years ago.
Yeah. Let me switch over to another pass catching threat in Drake London. And, down in Atlanta, they've been building this team for a number of years now. Drake London has been in the league for a couple of years, and he's done nothing but produce over the last couple of years. He's basically had a better year ever since he's come into the league. He's got a quarterback now. And I think that's the biggest thing. He's got Michael Penix down there. But other than that, I mean, their offense is pretty loaded. Outside of him, wide receiver wise, they don't have a great number 2 threat, which could even boost his potential higher, right? Just from a target share standpoint. So Drake London is a guy that, again, just missed out on that top 25.
Yeah, I know London is a guy you're a bit higher on than I am, so you probably missed out more my side of the debate there. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I like Penix. I do like London. I think he's going a little bit high for me, but absolutely. I mean, he was very productive. I'm pretty sure he was a top 10 finisher in wide receivers last season. So Drake London, definitely a guy who, he's right there. And then wrapping that up for the running backs, Josh Jacobs. Not a sexy guy, probably why he's not in the top 25, but he's a workhorse and he fits that Packers offense very well. I think he's someone who's going a bit later who you can get some value on. I mean,
For sure.
he's a guy who's shown his time in Vegas and now his time in Green Bay that he can handle a 300 plus carry workload.
Yep.
And, the offensive line, they're going to build from the run game. They're going to allow Jordan Love to then use play action, hit Tucker Kraft and one of his 15 slot wide receivers, wherever they be. But Josh Jacobs is a workhorse. He's going to get all the goal line work. So he's a hard guy to pass up on, although I understand maybe not the most sexy pick. His
and
efficiency
last
isn't
year
always...
the Packers definitely tried to be a little bit more balanced from a running game, passing game standpoint. So Josh Jacobs, if you can pick him up in the third round or so, it's a hell of a steal for basically an RB1.
Yeah, I agree there. All right, let's get into our guys who actually did make our list here. Starting with tier number 5. This is our up for debate tier. Starting off with second year guy, Lab McConkey, then going to the old vet, Mike Evans, Lamar Jackson, AJ Brown, and rounding out this tier with Chase Brown. Why don't you kick it off? So the way it's going to work, we're not going to talk in depth about everybody because we'd be here forever. But we're going to kind of pick and choose a couple guys from each tier to kind of really dive into a little bit and then go from there. So who's your first up in this tier?
Let's talk about the battle-tested vet in Mike Evans. I mean, I think it was a pretty big thing come week 18 last year when he was battling it out, trying to get that 1,000-yard season. I think he now holds the record for the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in a row. So, dude, I think it's one of those things that you can just trust on Mike Evans. It's just like paying taxes. Like every single year, he's going to come out with 8, 9, 10 touchdowns, 1,000 yards. He's just super consistent. The only thing that kind of holds me back from moving him up, to be honest, is that Bucs offense is loaded at wide receivers. Bringing in Emeka Ibuka, they still have
Godwin
down
Jalen
there.
McMillan.
They had Jalen McMillan from the draft last year. So I don't know if it really matters because, Mike Evans is by far the biggest target. He's the best red zone threat.
Right.
And he's been there. He's done that. He's just super consistent.
Yeah. No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. Like, if it's kind of like what's Godwin going to look like coming off of the reconstructive ankle surgery, which we don't know, right? It's a reconstructive surgery. It's a big deal, right?
Yep.
So he's going to have the time because it happened early enough, but some guys never get back to that level. So we're going to have to see because early on in the year, Godwin was kind of the lead horse, right?
Right.
But I think you said it, the touchdowns. He's always going to be he's basically their goal line back. I mean, he had 11 touchdowns in 14 games. His anytime touchdown is like automatic, right? So 11 out of 14 last year. What was he? He's 13 out of 17 the year before. The one thing here is the age, right? 32. He's not ancient, but he's getting there. But I think you got to put him on this list because every year people want to fade him, and every year he makes you look stupid because he puts up 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns.
Yep.
Going back to that 11 consecutive 1,000 yards receiving seasons, tying the Jerry Rice for the record. So he needs one more to break the record. So I think he'll be pretty damn motivated and earns a spot there.
For sure.
All right. Lamar and AJ Brown, similar to veteran guys who we know what you're getting out of them. They're very productive. They're still on good offenses, so we're going to definitely keep them. The guy I want to talk about is Chase Brown.
Yeah.
The running back that kind of popped on the scene last year. Going into last season, he was definitely a fantasy darling, like most rookie young guys are, because there's just kind of like a little bit of the unknown. He was someone I was actually kind of more on the Zach Moss train because he had been a little bit more proven.
Yep.
Felt really good early in the year when Zach Moss was doing his thing. And then, he went down with that neck injury. And Chase Brown absolutely took off. As they started to make that playoff push that ultimately came up a little bit short, it was no fault, really, the entire offense, but definitely not Chase Brown. I mean, he was getting involved. Running game, 220 carries, 990 yards, 7 touchdowns, and then 50 receptions out of the backfield, 360 yards and 4 touchdowns. So very willing in the passing game. And I just love how he took advantage when he was the lead guy. Like, that offense really did not miss a step. If anything, it got better. He became a real threat that, when you've got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow throwing them the ball, the box is not going to be loaded.
Nope.
Right? You are going to be running against favorable boxes, and you're going to have touchdown scoring opportunities because of the efficiency of that offense.
For sure.
So he's in a really good situation, and he's a guy who stepped up to the plate and seems like he can handle that. So I'm very excited for Chase Brown in year 2.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's, like you said, he took full advantage of the lack of full boxes, especially towards the end of the season. Plus, when defenses really try to key in on Jamar and T. Higgins, what better safety valve than a very explosive running back? And like you said, he gets into the game through the passing game as well, not just the running game. So yeah, I think he's a guy that should continue to thrive in that super high octane Bengals offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make a legitimate case that he could be the wide receiver 3. You got Gesicki, you got Jermaine Burton, who really kind of struggled, on the Ilavasa guy or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he's explosive and he's someone out of the backfield. I think he's going to be a matchup nightmare for linebackers. So.
And this is a team that's going to put up points. They're going to have to put up points because we know what their defense is going to look like. So they're going to be on the field quite often.
Right, and that offensive line still not really fixed, so Burrow might need to be getting rid of the ball pretty quick. So,
right.
All right, let's jump to this next tier here. This is the Robbins tier. Tier number 4, starting off with Kyren Williams, Rams running back, Devon Achane for the Miami Dolphins. Then we've got Josh Allen, Trey McBride, and Ashton Jeanty.
So the Robbins is not Batman.
Correct.
These are guys that, you may not necessarily pick in the first round,
right?
But are great second options.
You're very happy with them as a nice sidekick to go with your first round stud.
Exactly.
Who do you want to talk about first from this tier?
Let me just skip down to Josh Allen because we talked about how, early on in a fantasy draft, we're not targeting tight ends or quarterbacks super often, but we had Lamar in the last tier. Josh Allen is our top ranked quarterback, and talked about Captain America. I mean, the dude put up an incredible season last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 29 years old. I don't see how, this upcoming season is going to look a whole lot different than last year. He's basically their goal line back. From a running standpoint, he's not going to pick up as many yards as Lamar, but he might have double the amount of touchdowns as he does. And when it comes to fantasy, we're just all about the points. So touchdown score, he's 6 points and rushing yards, we got to get 10 to at least get a point. So I'm taking Josh Allen in that second round if he's there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you talked about it. I mean, combined for 40 touchdowns last year, a year before over 40. It's the rushing touchdowns that as you mentioned. He's just been so damn consistent. I mean, he's a
Yeah,
great. I mean, he's a really good NFL quarterback, and I'd argue he's a better fantasy quarterback.
yeah,
And I know James Cook took some of those touchdowns away. He did have a good touchdown, but he still had 12 rushing touchdowns.
yep,
I mean, like you mentioned Lamar. That's absolutely a great parallel. Lamar, they don't run him in the red zone.
for
They
sure.
even though they apparently voted against the tush push, they run their own version of it, right? They do.
Well, when you have a battering ram as a running back, you probably don't need to throw Lamar in there.
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, Derrick Henry or Lamar, it's probably a little bit easy of a choice. But yeah, definitely love Josh Allen there. I will talk about probably the guy that I think has the highest potential based
Yeah,
on where
and
we
I
put
think
him.
that's why I ended up skipping over this guy because I knew you're a little higher on him than I am.
Yes, that is Mr. Devon Achane for the Miami Dolphins. I was already high on him, just explosive guy coming out of Texas A&M. We saw his rookie year where he was averaging an unworldly 8 yards a carry. He only played in 11 games. He came on late. He had 8 touchdowns. I mean, the world was kind of like, whoa, we didn't know what, is he going to keep that up? I think it was a little unreasonable to expect him to have that same efficiency,
Yeah.
especially with the health issues on the offensive line and with Tua. But still somewhat effective. 200 carries, 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. Around 5 yards a pop there, or whatever that may come out to.
Mm-hmm.
But the receiving really uptick. So we went from rookie year, 27 catches, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, to 78 catches last year, almost 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But last year, they had Jonnu Smith, who was
Mm-hmm.
their second leading receiver.
True.
This year, they brought in a retired rapper and an absolute joke of a tight end one in Darren Waller. Yes, hand up as a Giants fan, I'm probably a little bit more salty, but you got to be shitting yourself if you think that Darren
Yeah.
Waller is going to come in. And people keep pointing to 2019 and 2020 because the coach is still the same for tight ends. Dude, that was 5 years ago. That was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here where we think Darren Waller is going to step in?
Darren
So
Waller's now 30, 31, 32 years old,
he's
hasn't played
30.
football in over a calendar
Right.
over a calendar year.
He's going to be 33 by the time the season starts. And when has someone gotten better at football by not playing football?
Yep.
Right? Deshaun Watson, Le'Veon Bell. Like, there's many examples that guys don't typically get better when they quit football, right? So,
Yeah.
all that to say, I think that's going to be even more opportunities out of the backfield as a receiving, threat. They love the screens there in Miami. They love to get creative with that too. So I think Devon Achane, the offensive line, they brought some guys in. I think that they can definitely start leaning on this running game a little bit more because let's be honest, Tyreek's getting a little bit older and Jalen Waddle's had a little bit of trouble staying available for this offense. So we'll see there. But I really think that Devon Achane is a guy who has the potential to really kind of explode from where he's getting drafted at.
Yeah, no, I like Devon Achane. I'm just not as big on him as you are, just because Mike McDaniels likes to throw running backs out there
Right.
just willy nilly. It seems like he'll sub a dude out once they get inside the red zone,
Right.
just for no reason. So
Absolutely.
it's just one of those things that Achane has was able to stay healthy last year.
Yeah.
He's a smaller back,
Right.
and we'll see. I think the next guy that I want to talk about is just one of the best prospects coming into the league that we've seen in a while
He's not
at
a
the running
small
back position.
small guy.
Yeah.
Definitely not a small back.
I mean, Ashton Genty, dude, only rushed for 2,600 yards and 29 touchdowns
So
a year
insane.
ago at Boise State. The dude is an absolute animal.
Yeah.
And in that Las Vegas offense, I think he just fell to the perfect spot. You got a coach in Pete Carroll that is a defensive-minded coach, likes to run the ball. I
Yep.
mean, we all know what Pete Carroll and that Seattle offense looked like with beast mode.
Mm-hmm.
This is beast mode round 2, basically, with
2.0.
Ashton
Yeah.
Genty. So
Absolutely.
I think Ashton Genty, like I said, just fit-wise, scheme-wise, the dude's an absolute beast as it is. I don't think he's gonna necessarily break our hearts come his rookie year.
Yeah. No, I mean, Gigi is a hard guy to rank because the potential is there. Every time I
Oh
look at
yeah,
his
he
numbers,
he could end up in the top 5
easily.
by season's end.
I mean, it's just like, you have concerns about, okay, is it going to translate from, Boise State to, the NFL, right? And then you
Sure,
have, hey, I mean, but when you look at his numbers and you just look at how this guy runs and you talk about Pete Carroll, and I would like the offensive line to be a little bit better, but
sure.
I mean, he's just a dude. I mean, he had 374 rushes last year.
Yeah.
He put up like numbers that guys don't put up in their career in one season in college. So,
Yeah. Talk
uh,
about workload, and he's gonna have to do this in Las Vegas because I mean you bring in Geno Smith, wide
right,
receiver wise, not
pretty
much.
light.
You
Yeah,
got Brock Bowers there. He's a
right,
stud, but they're gonna have to lean on Gene and
right.
let him be their workhorse.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So G&T rounds out our Robbins tier. We're going on to tier 3, but before we do that, I got to tell you about some of our other sponsors here at IDP Plus. And the first is idpplus.com. Make sure you check out the website. We've got articles, we've got podcasts, we've got YouTube videos, we've got ways to sign up for drafts. You're going to want to check it out, and you're going to want to become a subscriber to the page because we got a subscriber only Discord. We've got content we only release to our subscribers. We want to make sure that, hey, if you're going to trust us with the subscription, we're going to make sure you're staying ahead and getting ahead there in fantasy to help you win some leagues and enjoy some football there. So check out idpplus.com. And then we're going to talk about one of the best parts of the offseason, and that is the Fantasy Football Expo. It's kicking off August 8th to the 10th in beautiful Canton, Ohio there with the NFL Hall of Fame in the background. Check that out. Go to the fantasyfootballexpo.com and get your tickets today. All right, let's get into this next tier here. This is tier number 3, and these are our budding stars. This is Jonathan Taylor, Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, Bucky Irving, and graphic man himself, Derrick Henry. Yes, we have Derrick Henry at number 11. We will be talking about him because I know that can be a little bit controversial here.
Mhm.
But all right, I'm going to start off with Mr. Malik Neighbors because we've got a little bit of a wide receiver debate here we had
Yeah.
offline. So I'm going to talk about my guy first and throw out some defense, and then Derek's going to talk about a guy that he thinks is going to maybe have a better season. So we'll see. But Malik Neighbors, 21-year-old, second-year guy out of my New York Football Giants there. 15 games, 109 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns. For only being 21-year-old, the sky's the limit. He did all of that, over 100 catches, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns in just 15 games with absolute dog shit at quarterback. I can finally say it now that the curse is off our team.
Mhm.
Daniel Jones, he sucks. He's not very good. So Tommy DeVito, awful. We just had nothing at the quarterback position. Drew Lock, you cost us the first number 1 overall pick. What the hell was that, man? So look, I think say what you want about Russell Wilson. Obviously, you'll probably say some not so nice things with him just being a Steeler. But Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart, I would trust any of those quarterbacks over the guys that we had out there last year. And I think that you bring in Scadaboo, you have Tyrone Tracy, Jalen Hyatt's making a return there. I think that there's a little bit more on this offense. The offensive line is getting built up a bit. I just think this offense is actually going to rise to a level of competence that we haven't seen. And I think Malik Neighbors is going to really be able to, he's going to have a massive target share and he's going to be able to shine a little bit and not get so much double coverage there. So we have Malik Neighbors coming in at 13. Why don't you talk about the guy just behind him that you think could potentially finish better than him?
Yeah, I am a big believer in Nico Collins this upcoming year. I think last year had a couple of weeks where he wasn't on the field, only played 15 games, but this is wide receiver 1 for CJ Stroud. They've developed quite the chemistry over the last couple of seasons. You take away Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell is not going to be in the picture. They bring in a guy in Christian Kirk who had a season-ending injury last year. I think he had a broken collarbone.
Right.
From a Christian Kirk standpoint, injury-wise, nothing to necessarily be concerned with. Bones heal up, they're ready to roll. But just getting back into football shape, getting back with a new team, a new scheme. Nico Collins has been there. And CJ Stroud, you talked about being able to trust Jackson Dart and Wilson and Jameis. I don't know if we can trust any of those dudes at this point. I will put my trust in CJ Stroud. Obviously, had a little bit of a step back last year compared to his rookie year, but when you end up looking at the numbers, there really wasn't that big of a drop off as a lot of people may think. You basically go from 4,100 yards down to 3,700 yards. It's still top 10 or top 15 in the league. Interception wise, jumped up a little bit, but they did do some reworking of that offensive line. And I think it all comes back down to development as well. You have a guy that is now on his third year. You got Nico Collins there that has been with him every step of the way. I think Nico and CJ Stroud are going to hook up early and often and have a pretty damn good year.
I just want to point out how you're supposed to be talking about a Michigan man, and you spent most of the time talking about Ohio State prospect or product CJ Stroud. So,
hey, somebody's got to throw in the ball. And
as
Buckeye.
a true Buckeyes fan, that was very, very nice of you to talk about Nico Collins there. All right, let's talk about Mr. Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Probably one of the more controversial guys because people didn't want to, they wanted to fade him last year because he was 30. They want to fade him this year because he's 31. What's that going to look like? Lamar's going to take
He's
away.
not a receiving threat at all.
Yeah, all that stuff. But, dude, I don't care. Derrick Henry is a monster. He's a beast. He put up 325 rushes, 1,921 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns. He even got you 19 catches for almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the guy is going to just consistently, I believe at least the last 5 years, he's put up double-digit touchdowns. He is someone who nobody wants to tackle, a la Minka Fitzpatrick last year in the playoff game. And he's just someone that is in a perfect situation. There's the threat of Lamar Jackson and his legs. Mm-hmm. There is, that Greg Roman offense of wanting to run the damn ball. And there's the offensive line and the multiple tight ends that, the Harbaugh is going to throw at you. So Derrick Henry is in a great situation. He shows no signs of slowing down at this point. Nope. I'm not fading Derrick Henry. I want Derrick Henry on my team because he's going to get me double-digit touchdowns. He's, had done well at staying healthy past couple of years. And he's just a beast. And he's someone that is liable to break a 70-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter of a game because no one wants to tackle him almost every game. So we saw how good it looked. He was second in the league in rushing last season. There's no reason to fade that. So I'm all over Derrick Henry. He comes in at number 11 for us, which means we're probably drafting a lot of Derrick Henry compared to market.
Definitely, yeah. And everybody wants to talk about Saquon's record-breaking season last year. Derrick Henry had 80 less yards and had more touchdowns than Saquon did last year. It's not like he was too far off.
Right.
Saquon obviously didn't have quite the success in the playoffs that Saquon did, but still, like when it comes to fantasy, we don't give a shit about NFL playoffs.
Right.
Our playoffs are week 15, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
So, I think Derrick Henry, like you said, we're a little higher on him than most. And I think from a running back standpoint, he's as consistent as they get from a rushing yards and touchdown standpoint.
Yeah, especially in that offense. If he was still on Tennessee, I think we can make a much tougher argument. But on the Ravens, with the threat of Lamar and that offensive line and just the mindset of they still don't have, any really great receivers. I mean, Zay Flowers is pretty good, Mark Andrews, but it's not like they're just going to be a spread it out offense.
It's going to be the same offense that we've seen the last 4 or 5 years in Baltimore, and they're going to rely on the running game.
And it works. So why would we fade it? All right, let's go on to tier number 2 here. This is our on the cusp of greatness tier. These are guys who are pretty damn close, maybe a season away from knocking off some of these top 5 picks here. We've got the all-world tight end Brock Bowers. We got Brian Thomas Jr., who exploded on the scene last season. Amon-Ra, the sun god for Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs, his running mate there. And then CeeDee Lamb in the Dallas Cowboys. So why don't you start us off? Who are we talking about in this tier?
Let's start off with Brian Thomas Jr. because this is where, again, we differed with Collins and Neighbors. Brian Thomas Jr. is an absolute stud. I mean, you talked about how Malik Neighbors came on and had 1,200 receiving yards last year. Who eclipsed him? Brian Thomas Jr.
Right.
And I think again, it's a fit thing down there in Jacksonville. They brought in a guy in Travis Hunter, obviously through the draft, who should swing safeties away from Brian Thomas Jr. a little bit more than he did last year. He's a hell of a deep threat. From a reception standpoint, again, we're talking PPR. The dude still had 87 catches.
Yep.
So it's not like he's not getting the lion's share of targets and receptions anyways. And we still don't know exactly what that offense is going to look like with Travis Hunter in it, but the dude's a threat, and defense are going to have to respond to that.
Yeah, no, and you know, you're just talking about what we don't know with the Hunter thing. What we do know is that Brian Thomas Jr. did most of this with Mac Jones throwing in the ball,
It's
right?
true.
With Trevor Lawrence, you know, as low as I am on kind of Trevor Lawrence, he's better than Mac Jones, right?
Yeah.
And we also know their defense was dog shit last year,
Yep.
and it's very likely going to be dog shit this year,
Yep.
right? Instead of going defensive line or whatever, where everyone thought they were going, you know, they traded up and got Travis Hunter, who seems like he's mostly going to be a wide receiver at this point. We'll see.
Yep.
But, you know, I think the likelihood of him playing significant snaps at both cornerback and wide receiver are pretty unlikely in the league.
Right.
So, you know, I think that's only going to help Brian Thomas Jr. So, yeah, it took me a little bit, but look, I was just a guy that I didn't think,
you faded him last year, and
right.
it came back to bite you a couple times. But
yeah, absolutely, man.
You've learned your lesson.
Exactly. I really like Brian Thomas this year. So, yeah, absolutely at 9. I'll go back a pick, and I'll talk about Mr. Brock Bowers, our one of 2 tight ends on the board here. Obviously, number 1 tight end that we have, 22-year-old. You know, it's going to be him, and it's going to be Bowers and GT show there in Las Vegas, right? Yep. He's just playing like a wide receiver. I mean, he's got 112 catches, almost 1,200 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And that was with the absolute, you know, circus.
That's top 15 wide receiver numbers at tight end. If you can grab him.
Yeah, and again, the carousel of madness that was a quarterback of Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and please don't let him play another snap in the NFL, Desmond Ridder. Yeah. I mean, so the fact that he was doing that, now he's got a competent quarterback in Geno Smith, who I think Pete Carroll's smart. He's going to want to run the ball. He's going to want to hit play action and you know, hit Brock Bowers. I like Jacoby Myers. I think he's a guy who can bring you some value there. He's a, you know, he has a lot of catches and he's whatever, but I mean, Brock Bowers is the wide receiver 1 of this team. I mean, he's the best offensive threat that they have. And now he's going to get a little bit of relief from some of the running game, so they can't tee on him too much. So I love Bowers here. I think he's going to just, you know, kind of break barriers of what the tight end position can do. It's kind of like Travis Kelce, you know, a few years ago. It's like, wow, like this is really just a receiver at the tight end position. So, Brock Bowers comes in at 10 here. Just, you know, obviously super high historically for a tight end. There's only 2 of them in our top 25, but the dude's a unicorn. So I think that he's going to continue to, you know, kind of break these barriers coming there. All right. Any other guy you want to talk about from this tier? Or you want to go on to the first one?
No, let's move on.
Yeah, guys, you know, Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb, we kind of understand massive target load, right?
Yes,
and on some decent offenses. So let's move on to this top 5 here. This is our final tier, revealing our dynasty starters. These are guys that we're willing to, you know, to put the mortgage on. These are the guys that we are saying we will draft, you know, up to number 1, number 2, number 3, right? These are guys that we were targeting here. Coming at number 5, a bit of a surprise for some people, Puka Nacua of the LA Rams there. Then we have Saquon Barkley as our RB2, Bijan Robinson as our RB1, and then look, we may have some spicy takes, but we're not idiots. It's Justin Jefferson and it's Jamar Chase at the top there, with Jamar coming in as our number 1 overall fantasy football player. Who are we starting with on this tier?
Let's talk Puka. Puka Nacua now is kind of Sean McVay's like weapon in disguise a lot of times. They like to use him in all kinds of different positions, all kinds of different ways. And the dude produces. I mean, he only played 11 games this past year, almost hit that 1,000-yard mark anyways. But I
insane.
think it's just one of those things that the Rams and Sean McVay can have a really high-flying offense. And when he's on the field, they got Devontae Adams to, again, shift defenses away from him. He's just proven over the last couple of years that from a PPR standpoint, he's a receptions and target machine. And I don't necessarily think that, going into his third year now, Sean McVay is going to move off of his favorite toy to play with.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, we saw what it looked like in a McVay and Stafford offense when they have a wide receiver that they absolutely love. And it was
Yep.
Cooper Kupp, that year they won the Super Bowl, right? I mean,
Yep.
Stafford has no problem throwing to a dude, 15 times in a row. If that's where the play is designed and he's getting open, they're
Yep.
not the same player as far as where they run their routes and things like that. But
Right.
Puka Nacua is a monster. I mean, you talked about him, some end arounds. Like it will invite contact, and he will try to find the end zone there. So, I love Puka this year. I think he's someone who has that potential to break out and be the number one overall guy in fantasy, right? So,
Yeah.
look, he's got to stay healthy. But I think you trust Sean McVay and you trust Stafford getting the ball, and you've got a real threat in Devontae Adams on the other side there. To, like you said, you can't just focus everything on Puka, and they still have Kyron Williams there and Higbee and all that. So yeah, I love Puka this year. I guess this means I have to talk about Mr. Saquon Benedict Barkley, which, look, if I'm gonna put him here in the top 5, then that really means something, because it hurts, because Puka Nacua almost caused me a lot of happiness with that catch that looked like the Rams were going to knock off the Eagles. But instead, we had to ensue the misery of an Eagles Super Bowl. And a large part, it was due to Saquon Barkley. Maybe not in the Super Bowl game, but definitely getting them there.
Yeah.
He's just in a great situation. I hate to say it, but he is set up for so much success in that offense with that organization right now. 28 years old, so not old, a little bit older for the running backs, but still, no real signs of him slowing down. He had 345 carries in 16 games, 2,005 yards. Likely would have broke, Eric Dixon's record there for single season rushing record. 13 touchdowns, 33 receptions, 278, and 2 touchdowns there. He's got one of the best offensive lines in football. He's got a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who is a threat with his legs, who's going to, cause some pause and hesitation in the defense. And if you hesitate with Saquon, he's gone.
Good luck.
So, yeah, it's just a situation that how can you not have him in your top 5? Now, the
only thing,
right.
I was just going to say, the only thing that makes me pump the brakes a little bit is he had 345 rushes in the regular season. He had another 60, 70. I can't remember exactly how many he had in the postseason. He had over 400 carries.
Right.
And the last time that happened was a year before with Christian McCaffrey. And we know how his season went last year, being basically the top overall pick, and caused a ton of fantasy owners some real disgust. So, Saquon, I think the big difference with Saquon is he didn't have any injuries coming out of this past season. We didn't hear about anything going into training camp this season.
Right.
Like you said, his offensive line is probably the best in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So other than the kind of the touches, kind of boogeyman type deal of that, it's really hard to say bad things.
And he is the Madden cover guy. So
yes.
So if Madden curse might be a thing. I don't know.
If you believe in voodoo and magic and Madden curses, then maybe stay off Saquon, and I wouldn't be mad at you. But he definitely has to be in the tops here.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you finish this off here, talking about the number 1 overall fantasy football ranked player according to the DGen Docs. What an honor.
Yeah, I mean, Jamar Chase is a stud. He won the Triple Crown last year with 127 catches, over 1,700 receiving yards, and 17 touchdowns. And the dude just got paid. He's got T. Higgins coming back. He's got Joe Burrow, still throwing him the ball. So I think it's just one of those things that, comparing him and Justin Jefferson, it's like a 1A, 1B kind of a thing. But when it comes to quarterback play, what you're getting in Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
We think we have a general idea of what JJ McCarthy could be,
Right.
but we have no idea.
Yep.
And the connection that goes back all the way to their LSU days is just outstanding,
Yep.
and Ja'Marr Chase, as long as he's on the field, he is going to produce.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you just can't put anyone else there right now.
Yeah.
Ja'Marr Chase he's. I mean, look what he did against the Ravens. Like, supposed to be one of the better defenses in the league, who he's going to play twice a year every year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he put up like almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2 games. Like, I mean, this guy's just got so much pop and potential. He's only 25 years old. Like, he's kind of getting to the peak, right?
Yeah.
And again, T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. Like, he's got a Robin, and he's got one of the elite quarterbacks. What else could you possibly want? Justin Jefferson, don't get me wrong, he's an absolute stud. He's proven to do it with, really kind of poor quarterback play, different quarterback play, working through some things, whatever. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. At number 2, I will very happily take Justin Jefferson. Yeah. But if I have the number 1 overall pick, it's without a doubt Ja'Marr Chase in my mind. 100 times out of 100 times. All right, man. Wrapped it up. Top 25 there. All of our rankings are now done. So if you have any questions on where we stand with guys as far as right now, pre-training camp, what your rankings look like, whether it's dynasty or redraft, you can find on our channel where we're talking about it here. Obviously, you can hit us up on socials. X is probably where we're most active. You can find Derek at Professor_Lock2. I'm at the DGen Doc here. But hey, we're just getting started.
That's right.
We got real professional football with the Hall of Fame game at the end of this month, and it just ramps up from there.
Under 4 weeks.
What is it?
We're under 4 weeks.
Before
we see NFL logos on sides of helmets playing an actual football game.
I think I saw something.
Is it an actual football game? Maybe, but
yeah,
we're gonna be seeing some dudes hitting. We'll again. So
we'll see live football, But I think I saw something that was like 60 days from NFL kickoff, which sounds pretty damn nice. So, but look, we will be talking a lot more fantasy and all things. We'll probably get more into the injury aspect, talking about, hey, due to their injury profile situation, maybe you want to avoid these guys, or hey, these are guys coming off injuries who we think are set up for a good situation. Because not all injuries are created equal, and you know that, and we know that, and that's kind of where we specialize a little bit there. And then if you are interested in any types of bets or making some money off the NFL outside of the fantasy realm, we're doing the IDP Plus bets. We're kind of the main ones over there. We're doing division previews. We're going to do a college football preview. We're getting into our futures. We're getting to where we're actually laying our money down and getting ready to win some money for this year. So definitely hop on over, check that out. Like, subscribe, comment, do all those things. Let us know who you agree with in your rankings. Who's too high? Who's too low? Where you have, different guys. Let us know. We'll chop it up there. Yep. Anything you got for the good people before we get out of here?
Yeah, and if they have any, comments or types of comment or types of content that they're looking to get to inhale, shoot us a message, drop it in the comments. We'll be sure to reply and hopefully be able to get that information out to y'all as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Especially guys, maybe some injury concerns, maybe, hey, how's this going to look? What do you guys think? What's your thoughts? Like I said, maybe it's a short form message, or maybe we do a video on it if it's interesting enough. So definitely reach out, definitely open to that. Other than that, folks, look, hope you had a happy, healthy, safe 4th of July weekend. Football's right around the corner. Start getting excited. Start prepping your mind, prepping your body. Get ready to tailgate and enjoy the greatest sport that the world has to offer. All right, brother. Let's go ahead and get out of here from Professor Locks and the DGen Doc here at IDP Plus. We are out of here.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.